think the train is unique in the world. I think it is the world's most elegant train. It's elegant, it's lovely, it's comfortable. It's always been very close to my heart. I love train travel, and I've traveled on many exotic railways around the world, but I think this one is perhaps the most elegant of them all.
Hello, I'm Jake de Boer. Welcome to the Travel Magazine. It's morning here in London, England, and we're outside the elegant Dorchester Hotel, where my wife Mieke and I spent last night in eager anticipation of the trip of a lifetime. Our cab is waiting to take us to Victoria Station, where we'll board the most deluxe train in the world, the Venice Simplon Orient Express. Victoria Station, please.
Safe journey. Victoria Station, please, Gabby.
Driving through London leaves you with a feeling of history and tradition. And that is what makes a journey on the Orient Express a traveler's dream.
I love the moment of departure when everybody is gathering. The trunks are coming out of taxis and limousines at Victoria Station. Women are arriving dressed beautifully, and men in their best suits. They expect something which is elegant, where the service is first class. They expect a beautiful train ride, which it is, because it covers some of the best countryside, most lovely countryside in Europe. And it's an experience which goes back to the late 19th century. And the train itself is a piece of art. And it's a pleasure to be in something which is as gracious and lovely as that.
My geography. Yes, they're connected.
People say that a trip on the Orient Express is one experience that lives up to all your expectations. Will we be traveling in the company of secret agents or royalty? We'll never know. But we're about to spend 2 days and a night living out a fantasy. It is. Good morning, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Madam, Rutland Rock Boyer. under just fine.
Prior to 1883, when well-heeled Europeans wanted to go from one country to another by train, they had to get out at the border and embark on another train. And a Belgian gentleman of the name of George Nagelmakers, who founded a company called Wagon Lit, seized upon the idea that had been developed in America of running deluxe carriages across frontiers, and that was the birth of the Orient Express. What we really did was seized upon what we would call the heyday of the Orient Express, which most people believe was the 1920s and 1930s. That was the time when there was a lot of political intrigue in Europe, and the train was used by spies, by courtesans, by diplomats. Arms sales were conducted on board the train. People would have private suites. Mata Hari was famous for traveling on the train, Sarah Bernhardt. A lot of European royalty used it extensively for visiting their cousins and their relatives who were royalty in other countries. The King of Bulgaria was so keen on the train that occasionally he used to drive it. He would actually get into the engine and insist upon being the engine driver. In the old days, there was a train called the Golden Arrow, and in effect, we've recreated that. We have our English Pullman carriages, and so once or twice a week, they run from London down to the coast to link in with the Continental train, the big blue train, and then we transfer people by boat across the channel. We take them over on the Sea Cat, which is a high-speed catamaran. It's the first of its type in the world, and it's a car-carrying catamaran. It gets us over the channel in 45 minutes, and that's why we choose it.
Like 76 minutes.
Per Côte d'Azur, un territoire local qui se trouve dans le champ de l'image dans l'arrière-port.
We'll continue our journey on the Orient Express right after this, so stay with us. Good afternoon, de Boer. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
That's nice, huh?
Yeah,
Beautiful. Look at the woodwork.
yeah. That's
Excellent.
Good afternoon, Mr. De Boer. I'm Miss Andrea. I'm Italian. I'm your steward for this trip till Venice. So the restaurant car, the bar, and the boutique, the shop as well, are situated on the middle of the train in this way.
It's very important to be well organized. You need foresight, because once the train leaves, it's very difficult to buy anything en route. We buy our food in Paris when we're traveling to Venice, and in Venice when we're going to Paris. We buy fish, meat, everything we need. We have 2 kitchens and 3 dining cars, and we carry all our food and supplies with us.
The train is actually called the Simplon Orient Express, which is a slight misnomer because we don't run through the Simplon tunnel anymore. But our route really runs from London to Paris, and then we run down through western France, through Strasbourg to Basel in Switzerland, stopping then in Zurich in Switzerland. We then cross into Austria, having passed through Liechtenstein at St. Anton, call at Innsbruck, and then run over the Brenner Pass, which is one of the most dramatic passes in the Alps, down to Verona and then Venice.
I've been on the train a half a dozen times. In 1985, I traveled on the train with my girlfriend at the time. And when we got to Zurich Hauptbahnhof, I proposed to her, and we are now married with 2 children. And we owe the beginnings of that to the Orient Express. So that's a memory which will live with me forever.
Part of the Orient Express experience is to dress for dinner. And if you've not met a secret agent or a movie star, now is the time to pretend you are one.
No, because that's the invitation. And I'm going upstairs because we're in Paris. And I'm going to have, something else.
Going to visit the chef, Christian Bodigel.
travel magazine. We'll be back with more of the Orient Express right after this. Our second day on the Orient Express begins in the Swiss Alps. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Dubon.
Ah, breakfast. Wonderful. Coffee
very
as
much.
well, I hope?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Already waiting.
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, you ready for breakfast, darling?
Yes, I am looking forward to this.
Some coffee?
I love some coffee.
Okay.
The film Murder on the Orient Express was made in the middle 70s. Just around that period, the Orient Express, as it then was, closed as a service. Wagon ceased to operate it. By then, of course, it had become a very tired reminder of its original service. It was using ordinary carriages. Really, the idea behind our service was that of our founder, Jim Sherwood, who bought two of the carriages at the Christie sale in Monte Carlo shortly after the film. He was intrigued by the publicity surrounding the film and then conceived the idea of recreating the service. And over the next 3 years, he went around railway yards, people's gardens in Europe, buying up original 1920s and 1930s rolling stock, much of it in a very dilapidated condition, digging out all the old manuals of how these things looked and essentially restoring it to its original condition, and that's the train we're on today. When this train was recreated by Jim Sherwood, a lot of it involved actually setting up the skills that had existed in the 20s and 30s. A lot of the families that had done some of the intricate marquetry work were researched, were found again, and we found that offspring of the original people involved were still in the trade. The crafts were still being perpetuated, and so we basically brought them back into the business. The original Orient Express ran from Paris through Venice and then sometimes on to Istanbul, which is the Orient. Istanbul was the gateway to the Orient. We decided for our operation to terminate in Venice, which is a 2-day journey and is really long enough to kind of have experienced the joy of the train. We're selling a dream, really. There is no other train like this in the world, and it's not so much a holiday as something that we believe everybody should do it once in their life. The experience of the food, the service, the ambience of the marquetry and the Lalique glass and the antique furnishings is something that you won't find anywhere else. You know, there are many, many beautiful hotels in the world, but there really is only one Orient Express train.
The travelers, the people who are taking the train, should look at it like a special thing, not just a simple means of transport. For that you can have a plane or a quick train. This is just like buying an antique piece of furniture which you like, you put it in your living room, and then you don't have to pretend that the dust doesn't go into the piece of furniture. You have to accept also the train is bouncing a little bit more than another one. I mean, if it's an antique train, it has to be taken like this. But you have this beautiful trip and this wonderful ambiance, which I like very much. I would say that the spirit of the train is really connected with the wish of Jim Sherwood to help this city. And I must say the train has contributed immensely to help the Cipriani, to make it more famous, because we have quite a lot of clients coming by train. The train brings normally about 180, 190 passengers, which is also very beneficial for the whole city.
Well, I can honestly say that the Orient Express is everything you expect it to be. And what better place to end this romantic journey than right here in Venice. I'm Jake de Boer. Bye for now.